morning. This is Scott Willard with the Congruence podcast. Congruence, where faith and business come together. And we are excited to have a special guest with us today. John Tay Richardson is joining us today. John Tay is a real estate broker and has a company, Home Sales Done Well. And John is a special friend of mine. When I started looking for a home in the greater Tacoma area, Holly and I were looking at homes all over the place, and we looked in this one home, and it's like, yeah, no, this is not going to work. But Holly and I both walked away with, you know what? The house is not going to work, but he's the man we want to buy a house from. We want him to help us to do this. So, John and I have known each other then since like October of last year, and it's been fun. It's been fun seeing how the relationship went. There are a couple funny stories along the way that we'll see if we have time to share. But otherwise, I want to just welcome John Tay to the show and say thanks for that. Just a quick word. So Leadwell Pacific, Leadwell exists really to help organizations to create leadership models that work. After 20 years of working in the nonprofit sector and government sector and watching managers suck the life out of people, I took a lot of tools learned from experience and from grad school and lots of coaching training and put it together in a leadership model that gives life to organizations. And so that's what I do. I work with leaders on how to build leadership models that work and that give life, and provide executive coaching to those leaders so that those tools stick. And if you or someone you know would benefit from that, then by all means, reach out and be happy to talk with you. I have room for 1 or 2 clients at this time. So if that's you, then give me a call. I'd be happy to work with you. All right. So the Congruence podcasts, we work off a really simple model. We work off of these God cards that Holly and I came up with our meetup group called The Gathering Place. And John Tay has been a member of that meetup group. He's come to a few of our activities, and I don't think that these God cards are a secret to him. So I have 10 that I asked my guests to choose from, and John's chosen a few of those. But I think before we get into those God cards, I imagine that our guests would just like to learn a little bit more about who you are and what you do. What is Home Sales Done Right or Done Well,
yeah.
and just how's that been going?
Absolutely. So I am a real estate broker here in Tacoma, Washington, as you know. I kind of fell into this because I was looking for a solution to another problem. I have 2 kids, and I wanted to be able to spend more time with them. And so my previous job did not allow me to do that. So a simple Google search brought me to real estate. And so as I started to do my research and find out what it was really about, I was like, that's something I'm interested in. Helping people, spending time with kids, it's everything to me. So I kind of dived right in. And as soon as I got in, there were some things I did not like about the industry. And so I said, well, let me do it my way and try to change it. And so that's how Home Sales Done Well kind of came to be, is my solution to some of the issues I saw.
Could you talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, absolutely. So most people think that real estate agents, make a lot of money, of course, and there is an opportunity to do that. With money comes other issues. Some people are more for themselves than they are for the community. We wanted to go out and really help our community. We're part of it. They provide us with the opportunity to provide for our families, so it's important that we support them. So,
are you working with a group, or is this your own brokerage?
So this is my own brand, my own company. I started beneath Keller Williams.
Okay.
So we have the support of Keller Williams, and we're every day we're building our team, trying to get a little bit bigger. So there's only a couple of us now. Hopefully we can increase that soon. So
That's excellent.
yeah.
I like that that you recognize that what drove you in business was not money, it was not success. You want to make enough to live, to pay your bills, to take care of your family, but what really drove you was having space to really have a life, and that in wanting to build a business that allowed for that, you wanted to really honor the community that you were serving.
Absolutely.
And that really came out when we were working on buying our house. I mean, it was like we want a house in an area that's in the city that is walkable, that we could go to a store, we could go to restaurants by foot, we wouldn't have to drive. We wanted to be in a part of the city that had character, that was diverse, where a part of the city where they had a welcome mat to people that wanted to roll up their sleeves and become a part of the community. And you helped us find that. We've been really happy with our home.
I'm glad to hear that.
And we didn't just look for a house; we were looking for a home, and that you nailed it. And so it's been fun to hang out with you ever since then.
Absolutely.
Well, so looking at these cards, the first one that I see here is what is something that brings you joy, and why?
And so I have a two-part answer for that. So
Okay.
in my personal life, of course, it's going to be my kids. They're my biggest support system. They're also my biggest critics. So that's personal life. As far as business, one of the great things about real estate is some of the people we get to work with. You have a great group of guys that I'm able to surround myself with and learn from, and we help to push each other to go further and further. So yeah, every day that brings me joy is just being around great people.
And I know just a little bit about the real estate environment, and you mentioned earlier Keller Williams is kind of the umbrella, and of all the realty companies out there, probably the chief when it comes to having training and support for their agents.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I can see them being a big piece of helping to support you.
Yeah.
Another question that comes up is, how does faith show up in the work that you do?
And so that's huge in real estate for two reasons. First and foremost, when we get a new client, we don't know if the house they're looking for is even available yet. So you have to have a lot of faith that you're able to go find that and deliver what it is they need. And then for us on our end, there's no guarantees in this. It's a commission-based job. You have to go out there and really hustle and just hope that you'll be able to put food on the table next month. So every day when we wake up, we have to have faith that, God will provide for us. He'll deliver that deal right when we need it. And it seems to always work out that way. So,
Yeah, that God's provision is there.
absolutely.
That He takes care of his people.
No question. No question.
If He's going to take care of that sparrow, He's going to take care of you and your family. That's awesome. That's awesome. So another question that you chose that I thought was kind of fun is, so I'm going to skip around with the order a little bit. The other one that I thought was kind of fun was share a favorite worship song, poem, or quote that really speaks to you.
Okay, I'm going to skip over the song.
You're not going to sing a song?
No, not
I was
this
looking
time.
forward to that.
Not
I
this
was like,
time.
no, John's going to sing us a song. This is
No,
awesome.
not this time. So actually, I have a favorite quote that I thought fit this. And that quote is, how you do anything is how you do everything. And that really speaks to me every day. It's something that I always remind myself of. Because it's so easy to get distracted, get off course. And so you just have to remember those little things, they equal something bigger. So it's important to always be mindful of how you treat other people, how you go about your business, be honest, have integrity, all those things. So,
Excellent. Excellent. What's your best or favorite God, church, or faith memory?
So, as I mentioned prior to getting into real estate, I had another job. When you try to make a transition to a commission-based job from something stable, there's a lot of you question yourself quite a bit. Am I doing the right thing? So a new movie had come out, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. You might be familiar with it. And there's a scene in there where Miles asks Peter Parker, when will I know it's time, or when will I know I'm ready? And he said, you won't. It's a leap of faith. And so I'm actually working while I'm watching that movie, which I probably shouldn't be admitting, but that part just hit me very hard because I was debating, like, do I make this leap into real estate and really try to give it everything I have? And those are the words I needed to hear at the right time. So, yeah, just being open to receiving God's message in whatever way it comes is huge. And so, yeah, that has always stuck with me. It's just that piece from that movie.
Yeah. How do you know when you're ready? You won't. Takes a leap of faith to figure it out.
Right. And everything.
Wow. That's cool. Well, leap of faith. I'm gonna take us away from the spiritual and proper stuff and share a couple of stories. So, when you're walking through a historical house and you walk on the creaky wood floors, you walk up the winding narrow stairs to the second floor, and you walk all through, and then your agent takes you downstairs and says, but wait, that's not all. Let's go through this door and let's take these windy steps into the basement. Yes. Basements of old historical homes are like my favorite. All right. And there's when Holly and I were looking at houses, we organized them by characteristics. And there was one house that we dubbed the haunted house because when we walked in and you went down to the basement, it was like dirt floor. And there were like holes, like life-size holes dug in the basement of this house. And that was forever known as the haunted house. And that sold, didn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, somebody bought
Absolutely.
that, and I'm curious about what they found in some of those holes. But so Jonte and Holly are walking through this historical house, and we walk down the steps, and we're in this basement. And just kind of looking around about, well, why do they have these weird hidey holes everywhere? And I look into one of these hidey holes and I pull out this short-handled sickle. And John and I look at each other and our eyes connect, and it's like at the very same time, one word goes through both of our mouths, and that is purge.
Absolutely. Purge, yes.
Indeed. The movie Purge came to us like this is the perfect weapon for the purge. And we ended up buying that house, all right? And John gets a hold of us and says, "Hey, I got to come over." And it was right around Christmas time. And so I got to come over. I've got a present for Holly. And I got to come over. And so we're like, well, fine, come on over. And Holly's like, what? What can this be? I mean, is this going to be like a gift basket or some kind of really cool, gift certificates, or what's it going to be? And John comes over and Holly's all excited to get this present. And it's this small, squarish, beautifully gift wrapped present. And Holly opens it up, and it's the series of the Purge. And she's like, "Oh my God, what are we gonna do with this?" Holly is not a Purge fan, and the only condition was that you had to come and watch them with us.
Right.
And so obviously we have not watched them yet because you haven't come watch them with us yet. It's still a beautiful pack of all of the Purge movies, but that was fun.
It was. We had a good time looking at houses. We really did.
That was cool. All right. So we have some more time. So is it okay if I
Sure.
ask you a few more of these
Of
questions?
course, of course.
One that I really want to ask is, you know, if there's one person that had a huge impact or influence on your life, who would that be?
Great question. The first person that comes to mind is my grandfather. He's one of those guys that'll give you the shirt off his back. Just kind to everybody. I heard that wasn't the same for his children, but for the grandchildren, we got a different version.
Yeah.
It works out that way.
Yeah.
I'll take it. But what I learned from him, because that's who I spent most of my time with, was compassion for other people. Always be willing to help others, and so that transitions really well into real estate, right? So he's with me every day. He passed, back in '09. He passed away, but every day I get to carry him with me through my work. So every time I meet somebody and I'm kind to him, it's as if he's here too. So yeah, that's awesome.
That's a cool story.
Yeah.
That's a cool story. It might dovetail into this next question. I'm not sure. And that is, what's a gift that you've been given that you'll never forget, other than, like a purge?
Holly won't forget that one. Oh man, a gift. My kids come to mind. That's the easy answer. They're definitely the best gift I've ever received. Other than that, let's see. Ooh, that's a good one. I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything other than them right now. I'll get back to you on that.
All right. We talked a little bit around the table. One of the things that we do, Holly and I host for the Vineyard Church in Federal Way, their Tacoma home group. And what we're doing right now is like every third Sunday we have a pasta and praise night at the house, and so we serve up a massive bowl of pasta, and we just sit around and talk about what God's doing in our lives. And this last Sunday night was an interesting night. We had some awesome people join us and some really cool stories about how people's lives have been impacted by their faith. And one of the things that came out is really how some of the best gifts that we've received in life were not monetary things. We're not like a packaged thing, but were lessons learned.
Absolutely.
And that some of the best lessons learned came out of massive challenges.
Yeah.
Whether it was an alcohol problem, a drug problem, whether it was a relationship problem, whether it was depression or social anxiety, or a physical ailment like cancer that looked so insurmountable at the time, but that on the other side of it were huge lessons learned
Yeah.
and gifts that last a lifetime. And
true.
that was fun having those conversations. And
Yeah.
not the worst pasta either, actually.
No, you did very well.
I did okay. I made the pasta, and I am gonna brag. It was good. It was good stuff. All right. A little deeper question. What's
for it,
one
yeah.
thing that you want or need to hear from God today?
Wow.
I said a little deeper, just like
Whoosh. It's really deep. What I need to hear from God today. You know what? I think it would be nice to know that you're on the right path. So just confirmation that I'm headed the right direction. That would be enough. I would take that.
What do you imagine that would look like? What would be the confirmation that you would receive that would say, boom, this can only be from God, and this is absolute confirmation you're doing the right thing, you're in the right path?
And see, that's really hard to answer because God never gives you the answer in the way that you expect it to come. So it could be as simple as an email, somebody saying, "Hey, you did a great job." And that might be confirmation. Yeah, you just never know where it's going to come from. So whatever format it comes in, I'll take it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, and it's the other thing that's tricky about it is that God communicates with us in so many ways. He communicates to us through His Word. So as we're opening His Word and we're reading, and a passage just really, it's like literally comes off the print at us, and boom, this is something to pay attention to. Speaking through, you might call it prophetic. If you listen to a pastor or someone, and words that they speak come out at you in such a way that they make an impact, and they sink into you deep, or a song, or a poem, that you come across. Holly's got this weird thing. All right. So whenever she's praying about something and she's frustrated with something, she swears that the Holy Spirit controls her Spotify account. Like she'll be rocking through something, and boom, a song will come on Spotify, and it will have a specific message for her, and then she'll get into a different communication or different conversation with God, and then boom, another song will come up, and it's like 3 or 4 songs into it, you put this all together, and it's like, no, this is a very clear message, and God does. He speaks to us in lots of different ways, even circumstance. Yeah. I thought last week we had a great example of that on the show. Somebody that had been questioning about whether or not it was safe to, to really put themselves out there and to talk about their business. And then I sit down at a table next to them at a networking event and talk about a podcast. And, oh, by the way, I have an opening this week. And she's like, sign me up.
There you go.
And boom, we're right there. God used a circumstance to show her, no, it is time and it is safe. And it's time to get into the water. God speaks in other ways. And so I do think that sometimes, we do get into that place where we're like, I need God to show me, I need confirmation that I'm doing the right thing. And I think it helps, even though we can't necessarily pinpoint what that confirmation will look like, to be really clear about all the different ways that God communicates.
Yeah.
I think that the beauty of that is that we can be on the lookout and be more aware, so that when that confirmation comes, we know beyond a shadow of a doubt, boom, that is His word. And I think He wants that for us. God has a plan and purpose for us and our lives, right? And to the degree that we're able to run the course that's put in front of us, that is consistent with that plan and purpose, it's amazing what happens. And when we're not, it's amazing how hard that wall hits us in the face.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, that's not working so good.
Yeah.
And then, sometimes the best confirmation is through hitting those walls.
There you go. It's a great way of looking at it.
So, all right. So one more question, and then we'll sort of move towards wrapping things up.
Sure.
In what way has faith been showing up in your life lately?
I think lately it's been a lot of reflection. Kind of how you spoke about earlier, those other gifts that are not monetary, but the more you seek an answer from God, the more resources that seem to come your way. So, clear mind, being able to say, this happened, which led me to this. Those kind of situations have been happening quite a bit. It's easy to stay on the negative side of things and think, why me? Why this? But if you stop and really look at where that led you, you can kind of come from a place of gratitude and say, thank you so much for doing that, because on the other side of pain is a reward. It's success, but we don't want to go through the pain,
Yeah.
So it's a lot of just the reflection.
Cool. And if I can bring this up,
Sure.
if not, you'll have to tell me later. I should have done
No,
that.
you're fine.
But Sunday night, you talked about one way that God blew the socks off of you over the last month. Do you want to tell that story again?
I don't recall. We talked about a whole lot on Sunday.
All right, we did talk about a whole lot. Well, so I recall that it was one of those times as a realtor when you were looking at the checkbook, and it was like, how exactly am I going to deal with this? And something amazing happened.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the story.
I got you.
Okay.
So, like you said, for real estate agents, it's easy to look from the outside in and say, hey, these guys just make a lot of money. Those commission checks are super big and all this good stuff. But there's so much space between them at times that you don't know if you're going to have to go back to the 9-to-5 job. And it was one of those situations where money was low and was really considering putting in applications out of fear of, my daughters, am I going to be able to support them? Are we going to have food on the table? And then as soon as those thoughts came in, a solution came. A new client, somebody that I used to work with, calls me and says, hey, I just went through a bad situation. I need to look for a house. And you're like, the timing could not have been any more perfect. And then that transaction was just so smooth and quick that I was able to get to that commission check to provide for my family for another, several months. And it's one of those just, thank you, Lord. But yeah, absolutely. Right when you need it is when it comes through.
Yeah. Right when you need it. It's
Right
when
when
it
you
comes
need
through.
it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now that's a theme for another show.
There you go.
For sure. All right. Well, so again, just a special thanks to Jonte Richardson with Home Sales Done Well.
Thank you for having me.
It's been great. It's been really. I've enjoyed having you with me. I want to remind folks that are enjoying the show. We're, by my count, we're only a few shows in, and I want to say this is our fourth show, and so far if my tallying works very well, and Tim, our producer, can confirm this, it looks like in less than a month we're already up to over 1,000 people viewing episodes of this podcast. And I want to thank you all for making that happen, and want to ask you to help it, get even bigger and better, because the reach is about, increasing the kingdom ultimately. That's the purpose. So, like it, share it. Also, love to have some sponsors. If there are folks that want to get their businesses recognized permanently on the show, and you'd like to sponsor the show, we'd love to hear from you. And again, I do have room for one or two clients. So if there are folks out there that have listened to the description of what LeadWell is and have really felt like there's a connection with who I am and what I'm doing with the Congruence podcasts, I'd be very open to talking with you. So thank you for joining us, and look forward to talking to you again and being live next Wednesday. Thank you much. Live Tacoma.